Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 1. Now let's start the fanfic. Naruto was bored and mentally drained. He had the nine-tailed fox in him. The Kyuubi, the creature that destroyed his village, most likely killed his family if they didn't abandon him because they thought him a demon, and brought suffering on thousands. His two teammates, Sasuke and Sakura, ignored him like always as their sensei was 3 hours late. I bet they hate me too. Naruto thought in sadness. The Hokage assured him that kids his age weren't aware of his burden, but they still hated him, not that his pranks helped. Our teacher is late, maybe a prank. He began mischievously but quickly squashed the thought. No reason to make him hate me more. I bet he'll be just like everyone else. Maybe if I'm quiet he'll at least just ignore me. I can't take those eyes. What the blonde Jinchuriki didn't know was that simple twist in thoughts would alter the course of his shinobi career forever. Kakashi Hatake slowly approached the door to the classroom holding the boy he abandoned as a baby. Sure, he was just a kid at the time, but not a day goes by that Kakashi doesn't think. What if I took care of him? Would last night have happened, or would he even be a genin now, instead of a chunin or jonin? Would he still secretly fear the villagers? The Hokage had filled Kakashi in on Naruto's mental state, and how the elders were worried that if something didn't change the Jinchuriki would finally snap. They reasoned assigning him to a jonin that didn't hate him would help. But putting him with him, Kakashi. It must be some sort of punishment. Kakashi could never hate Naruto. But he also couldn't bear to look at the blonde as it reminded him too much of Minato-sensei, and teaching him would be just too much, especially as Kakashi was likely to get him killed. Plus, Naruto was likely to pull pranks, act out, and overall prove that he wasn't ready to be a shinobi. Kakashi would just fail him, and let someone else take care of Sensei's legacy, as everyone knew Kakashi was not the right person. Opening the door lazily, he expected many things. Indignant screeches from the blonde. Traps and pranks too. Even a scowl. But what Kakashi didn't expect was the broken look in Naruto's deep blue eyes, ones that didn't belong on the son of Konoha's greatest heroes. Those eyes spoke to Kakashi, their tensed and readiness to bolt, the slight hope that Kakashi was different, and the mistrust that he would be just like everyone else. The jonin was caught in those orbs, breath hitched. Then he took in the rest of the room. Naruto was crouched in his chair alone on one side, while Sasuke and Sakura were on the other, pointedly ignoring their teammate who was so obviously in need. But they didn't care. You three are interesting. Meet me on the roof. Kakashi managed and used a shunshin to leave. Sasuke and Sakura got up and left, not noticing they left behind a certain blonde. Naruto scowled as he took off after his teammates followed their teacher. Sensing things would remain the same as always, probably his sensei would ignore him for the others, he plopped down to the far right of his squad mates. My name is Kakashi Hatake, your sensei. Let's start with introductions. Sensei. What should we say? Sakura asked. Oh, you know, likes, dislikes, hobbies, dreams. That sort of thing. Kakashi was hardly looking at the pink girl who would possibly be his student. Instead, his gray eye kept turning towards Naruto, who still sulked a bit, not even trying to hide it. Why don't you go first? To show us how it's done. Sakura suggested. Seriously. Alright. My name, as you know, is Kakashi. I have likes, some dislikes. I never really thought about a dream. As for hobbies, well, I have lots of hobbies. He gave his trademark eye smile and then watched in amusement as all three students had various degrees of annoyance. Messing with genin was fun. You next, Pinky. Naruto tuned out his teammates after Kakashi-sensei's useless intro. When Sakura said, "And I hate Naruto baka," he flinched, but didn't say anything, turning away slightly. And you? What about you, Blondie? Kakashi asked. Naruto blinked, honestly surprised he asked after the impression of dislike he gave. Oh, well, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. I like ramen, it's filling and cheap, the old man, the Ichirakus, and Iruka-sensei, because they acknowledges me. And my hobbies are gardening and trying new flavors of ramen. And training, but no one will believe that. I hate cold eyes, and the 3 minutes it takes for ramen to make. My dream is to be Hokage, so that everyone will have to acknowledge me and accept me for who I am. Naruto added the last part with a grin, imagining what life will be like then. Kakashi kept a level gaze on Naruto, ignoring Sakura's slight snorts. Well then, tomorrow we'll see if you three are actually genin. Next evening, as his sensei and teammates walked away while he was still tied to the post, Naruto couldn't keep the frown off his face. They left me, he realized in disbelief. His sensei, Naruto, thought he'd be different. After all that talk about never abandoning comrades, and they abandoned him. Hypocrites. Tears start welling up. He had used his last kunai on Kakashi-sensei earlier, and he wasn't able to use the rope escape jutsu. Mizuki taught that lesson and had sent him on an errand for 2 years in a row during that day in class. With Kakashi, Kakashi frowned as his 2 students continued walking with him, even when he mentioned Naruto still being tied up. That baka will figure something out, Sakura insisted and headed home. As Kakashi turned to head back to the training grounds, 2 green blobs glomped him. Yosh, my eternal rival. Guy greeted. Hello, Guy, Kakashi said weakly. Who is this? He looked in horror at the smaller version of his friend. Yosh, this is my most youthful apprentice, Lee. He has become like me in every way, almost like a mini-me. Mini-me, yes. Others treated him like nothing as he was the dead last year, but under my tutelage he's grown to become one of the best genin in our most youthful village. Guy boasted. Oh, well, I just passed my own team, Kakashi said, not realizing he wanted to boast about his team, even if it was pointless with how dysfunctional they were. Yosh, your flames of youth shine brightly. Perhaps one will take after you as well. Come, Lee, let us run around Konoha 500 times to stroke our youth. Yes, Guy-sensei. Lee. Guy-sensei. Lee. Guy-sensei. Kakashi left as they started running towards each other, not wanting to see whatever it is they were starting. Someone to take after me. Well, if Guy can do it, so can I. But who? Sasuke. He scowled, remembering that though a genius, the boy abandoned his comrade. And Naruto's eyes, Naruto. In haste, Kakashi went towards his final student, intent on rescuing him. Back with Naruto, minutes later. Naruto. Kakashi's voice from behind him made Naruto whip around. Kakashi-sensei. Naruto couldn't believe it, his sensei didn't abandon him. I'm sorry for leaving you. Want some help? The blonde nodded, and seconds later the ropes were cut. Getting the circulation back in his hands, Naruto wipes away his tears. Why didn't you use the rope escape jutsu? Kakashi asked, knowing full well why not. Investigations had already led the Hokage to deduce that several key lessons were sabotaged or outright not taught to Naruto. Mizuki-sensei never taught me that. Naruto admitted. Well, why don't I show you how then, Kakashi offered with his famous eye smile. Really? Yada. Naruto screamed happily and Kakashi winced. He'd have to work on his sensei's legacy's volume and attire. If Guy could take that Lee kid and get him into the monstrosity, then Kakashi could certainly change Naruto's tastes. Wait. Naruto was malleable. He was technically supposed to be Kakashi's little brother figure. And to be honest, Kakashi had always wanted to pass on his coolness, as Guy called it, to the next generation. With a hidden grin, Kakashi patted Naruto on the head. Why don't we go do some shopping first? When Naruto gave him a puzzled look, Kakashi took it as a yes. Later, Hokage Tower. Team 7 passes, Kakashi announced proudly. The other Jonin and Sarutobi were shocked at the man's words and several tried to dispel a genjutsu. Very well, Kakashi. That makes 3 teams that passed. Train them well, Sarutobi ordered. Soon most of the office was empty save the Hokage, Anbu, and Kakashi. Is something the matter, Kakashi? No, I'd just like you to sign this sheet making one Naruto Uzumaki my apprentice until he reaches Jonin, much like how Minato-sensei did with me. Very well, though I honestly thought you were planning to do this with Sasuke for his Sharingan. What changed your mind? Kakashi took a deep breath. Let's just say I think I'm ready to face my past, and if Guy can make one, so can I. The Cyclops chuckled evilly at the last part and used a shunshin. Tiger, one of the Anbu on duty, appeared with Sarutobi's signal. Yes, Hokage-sama. Tenzo, I'm going to assign you to keep a watch on your old captain for a while. Just to make sure he hasn't finally snapped. Tenzo gave a grave nod as he too was a bit worried at Kakashi's last comment and headed out to observe the enigma of a Jonin. Naruto tugged on his new attire a little embarrassed. Kakashi had picked him out. Proper, shinobi clothes, claiming his were just asking for a painful death. The man told him to just wear it the next day to training, that Naruto would see how great the new clothes were. Dressed in a short-sleeved version of his sensei's outfit minus the tilted headband, mask, and Jonin vest, Naruto did have to admit it was nice. People in the village hardly noticed him, meaning less glares and whispers. Now as he waited for his teammates to show, the blonde felt a sort of lightheartedness while looking at his shirt, knowing somebody seemed to care for his well-being. PSSH. Naruto, a stage whisper alerted him to the tree hanging over the bridge they were meeting at soon, though neither of the two younger teammates showed. Glancing up, he spotted Kakashi crouching in a branch, waving at him. Kakashi-sensei, what are you doing in the tree? Naruto his head curiously. The silver-haired man I smiled. Stopping you from making a grave mistake. Come along now, we have important business to take care of. Kakashi beckoned him, and took off using the trees, leaving a rather confused Naruto to follow at a slower pace branch from branch. Minutes later, Naruto lands beside his new sensei next to the memorial stone they had seen the day before. Both stood reverently for a while, Kakashi silently talking to his teammates and Naruto attempting to not fidget. So, what are we doing here, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto finally asked, breaking the suffocating silence. First rule of being my apprentice student, is. Kakashi prompted. The clothes. Exactly. But, the next rule is, never be on time for non-emergencies. By never showing up on time, you keep your comrades on their toes. 3 hours is usually enough, the older shinobi I smiled again. But, if you always show up late, won't they just get used to it and it won't be a surprise anymore? Naruto pointed out the obvious only to receive a head pat. Ma, my cute little student, that's why you mix up how long you're late. Well, that and come up with creative and excellent excuses. He added the last part as an afterthought. Today the excuse is, being lost on the road of life. But what do you do while you're lost on the road of life? Sit here. Kakashi snorted. No, contrary to popular belief, I don't spend the entire time at the stone. No, I am going to use this time to privately tutor you. What? I already left school. Naruto whined a bit. Kakashi gave him a deadpanned look. Naruto, how do we use ninjutsu? Katra. Kakashi face-palmed. It's chakra. Naruto. Chakra. Please remember it. This is what I'm talking about. I can't have you so behind. Who told you it was called Katra? Kakashi resisted a wince when the indignant look on Naruto's face turned bitter. Mizuki-sensei. He said its proper name was Katra and that only academy students called it chakra. Well, what about Iruka, or the Hokage? Surely they told you. They don't have time for me. Gigi visited once a month when I was little, but about 2 years ago an Anbu would bring my allowance, so I saw him only a couple times a year. He'd come say hi on my birthday or take me out to ramen. And Iruka-sensei always yelled at me about school, and Mizuki-sensei said he wouldn't teach me any more advanced stuff if I told Iruka-sensei about it. Advanced stuff? Kakashi echoed stupidly. Yeah, like taijutsu moves, more advanced history, tricks for math, He was mean in class, but when I asked for help after class, he'd always show me things. Naruto, your taijutsu was atrocious during the test yesterday, and your scores were dismal. Naruto flinched. Yeah, I figured. I guess since Mizuki hated me, he got a kick out of showing the village pariah crappy, advanced material. Naruto looked downtrodden, and Kakashi promised to make a very painful visit to Mizuki soon. For now, he had a crummy education to fix. Well, my cute little student, first lesson, chakra. 2 hours later. Are you sure about this, sensei? I mean, of course. The greatness of Ika Ika must be exalted. Naruto tried to push the orange book back into his sensei's hands, but the man persisted. Now, read the first chapter before we get found on the road to life. Resigned, the genin peeked the book open, and gasped at the first line. Miss Emsunade, beloved snow princess of the desert, was in love with Jiraiya, her dashing knight. But their love was not to be. Bridge. Minutes later. You're late. Both of you. Sakura screeched after Kakashi's lame excuse and pointed accusingly at the pair, both engrossed in their books, a slight spot of blood on Naruto's nose. Poor Jiraiya. What a champ. You and your noble steed Jamabunta deserve happiness too, Naruto sniffed, already on the second chapter. Sakura gaped a bit. Naruto. Your clothes. And your reading. The kunoichi couldn't believe her eyes. Her idiot teammate was dressed normally. And he had a book out willingly. Even if it was that weird orange one her mom always warned her about. Naruto looked up at her and grinned widely. Sakura-chan. Check this book out. It's a great romance novel. Sakura's interest was piqued. She was always an avid fan of romance novels, often imagining herself and Sasuke as the main characters. Really? She asked. It's amazing. Naruto tried to hand her his book, but Kakashi put his hand on the blonde's shoulder. Now hold on, there's no need. I made sure to buy enough for everyone. Handing Sakura a copy, Kakashi watched on in fascination as the girl began reading. Before long she had a slight nosebleed. Sitting on the ground she became engrossed. Sasuke was slightly disturbed as he watched his so-called team red smut together. A shiver would run up his spine whenever Sakura would giggle or Naruto would wipe a smear of blood off his face. Gazing at the clouds, the Avenger receded into his own thoughts. Oh Sasuke, the sing-song voice of Kakashi broke the internal debate he was having soon after. I have a copy for you, why not bond with your team? I don't have time to read smut, I'm going off to train. Turning away, Sasuke made for a private spot to work on his aim. Sakura noticed him leave and was instantly up, running faster than she ever did in the academy. Sasuke-kun. Wait up, I'll go train with you. She called after her crush, taking Ika Ika with her. Once the pair left, Kakashi sighed. His plan for a light team bonding moment failed. Well then, how about we go try to make you passable at shuriken throwing? 2 out of 10 would kill you quicker than walking into Iowa, the Jonin mused and then chuckled at his own joke. Sensei, I don't get it. Naruto tilted his head. Kakashi backtracked fast. Oh, did you say something? When the predictable huff of annoyance and complaint came, Kakashi knew he'd dodged a kunai. Can't have him guessing his heritage. That would be bad, especially if he's still feeling jolted from the Kyuubi. Mission office. Next morning. Team 7 requesting their first assignment, Hokage-sama. Kakashi drawled. The Hokage didn't know whether to chuckle or remove Kakashi from his post. For while Naruto now wore something other than orange, him and Sakura Haruno were over halfway through with the first, Ika Ika, novel. Now, while shinobi could certainly buy the books no matter their age, to read them in the office of their leader during their first mission briefing. Even Sasuke, the famed village brooder, was showing signs of being uncomfortable. The poor boy was alternating from glaring into space and glancing at his team uncomfortably. Well, if they wanted to ignore their Hokage, then as the Hokage it was his duty to give them a payback mission. Glancing at his desk he shuffled through the pile, when Tenzo discreetly pointed towards a particularly nasty one. Smirking evilly, he smiled benignly at the team in front of him. Team 7, he began, I've decided to assign you a C rank mission instead of the customary D ranks. Kakashi gazed suspiciously, but the genin were jumping for joy. Yada. AC rank, AC rank. Only to receive a slight bonk on the head. Kakashi leaned down and said something that sounded suspiciously like, hip and cool shinobi don't say, yada, but, ma, and, hn. Your mission, whether you accept it or not, he paused dramatically while the ANBU's chakra signatures buzzed in excitement, is to clean the entirety of the Anbu locker rooms and bathrooms. Three face faults and a one-eyed death glare, answered the Hokage. I'll remember this, Hokage-sama, Kakashi muttered after his genin had left. I'm sure you will, Kakashi. The Hokage chuckled, then winced for his ears. Hey, Sakura-chan, after this, want to go get something to eat? A loud voice questioned from the hallway. A deafening crash into the ground ensued moments later. Naruto, like hell I'd go on a date with you. Sakura-chan, you're scary at times. Kakashi barely made out his future apprentice's reply. When he walks out and sees the poor boy on the ground and the other two almost turning the corner, he resists a groan. Instead, he smiles and helps the blonde up. Nay, Naruto, sometimes, the female just isn't interested. After she's turned you down more than a couple of times, perhaps it's time to move on. Huh, but I can't just forget her. Naruto huffed. Her hair is so pretty. Kakashi resisted the urge to groan. Of course his student would have a taste for the exotic colors. Just like his father. Tell you what. Stop asking Sakura out on a date for 6 months, work hard on your studies, and take someone else on a date, and I'll take you on a little field trip next week. A field trip? Where, was the excited response from the blonde. Calm down. Now, it's a surprise, and I'll only take you if you give me your word to stop asking Sakura out, try to find someone else, and work hard this week. Naruto's head bobbed up and down. Got it. Now where? Oh, just to see Konoha's resident alien, get his handed to him by yours truly, and his little minion, who will fall to your coolness too. Never mind, put this on. A blue mass of fabric was pressed into Naruto's face, and he felt a slight foreboding when his sensei's eye smile got larger when he managed to get the cloth on, revealing it to be an identical face mask. Like this? He asked, feeling a bit stifled from the fabric. Perfect. Phase 2 complete, Kakashi said while jotting something down on a notepad that appeared. He was have more fun with this whole conversion process than he thought he would. Now, let's go find your wayward teammates before they get lost. Anbu headquarters isn't where they teach it to be, obviously, for security reasons. Naruto rolled his eyes as they left the tower. I know that, I pranked them last year. Bastards could never prove it either, hehe. Naruto looked smug, not noticing the sudden spike in killing intent from various shadows. I knew it was the Orange Menace, was the collective thought. Within the hour the entire corps would be plotting their revenge. Dozens of Anbu, on and off duty, crowd around the screens covering the bathrooms their old senpai and the Orange Menace were cleaning. A flamingo-masked Anbu had a smug air to himself as the Orange Menace was forced to be the corpse janitor. This will teach him to booby-trap the showers. Flamingo muttered darkly. A wolf-masked Anbu turned towards him, slinging his arm over Flamingo's neck, giving him a noogie. Oh come on, cousin. The little chibi is a genius. I gotta say though, my favorite exploit of his was when he dyed Hiyashi-sama's toothpaste pink and it ended up tinting his lips too. Priceless, I tell ya. Wolf wiped his mask where an eye hole would be to signify laughing. Flamingo sighed deeply. Hikaru, I truly wonder how we are from the same clan. Flamingo said, shaking his head forlornly. Other Anbu sniggered. Look, the Uchiha brat is gonna die. One Anbu proclaimed, calling the attention to what could become the final moments of one Sasuke Uchiha. Naruto had to admit, The mask Kakashi-sensei made him wear really worked. He could barely smell the bathroom, even with his advanced senses. Man, I bet these Anbu guys are complete losers at aim. They can't even hit the toilet. Naruto said cheekily while wiping up the sides of the toilets. Kakashi couldn't help but snort. Clone Naruto, don't you think you're a bit hypocritical? I've seen your apartment and bathroom. The Jonin said lazily while turning a page in his riveting novel. Another clone walked by with cleaning solution for the mirrors, this time hanged into Sakura. You went to my apartment bathroom. Cha. The clone dropped the supplies and aimed a punch at the silver-haired Jonin, who easily dodged with an eye smile. Ma, clone Sakuto, no need to be so violent. Good work on mimicking your teammate though, he complimented. Kakashi-sensei, please stop riling up the fake me that Naruto Baka made, the real Sakura scolded flippantly from a perch on top of the clean sinks. She was tearing her way through the second, Ika, volume with gusto. The real Naruto sat cross-legged on another sink, still absorbed in the first volume. Kakashi couldn't be prouder that the two converts to Ika were taking the process of enjoyment in the series seriously. Nearby Sasuke grunted while scrubbing the baseboards and showers clean of mold. Kakashi turned his lazy eye to his most stubborn student. Ma, Sasuke, if you wish to come enjoy God's gift to man with us, I'm sure Naruto would make you a clone. Sasuke stiffened. He refused to be led into that vulgar habit, even if he had to scrub every bathroom with his bare Uchiha hands. Naruto, however, remembered that his sensei believed in team bonding. So, without looking up from his book, the Uzumaki went over to his brooding teammate. When he reached the older boy, he brought out an extra copy of Ika that Kakashi-sensei had given him for converting others. Sticking it out gruffly to his rival, Naruto offered an olive branch. Come on, Sasuke. Read with us. At least try it. What happened next would mark Sasuke Uchiha as the dumbest human to grace the planet in the ANBU's eyes. Sasuke was momentarily startled by the gesture and lack of insulting nickname but quickly saw red. Snatching the orange book from the masked blonde, the Uchiha smirked while holding it up near a toilet. Trash. Sasuke spoke before ripping the book in half and dunking it into the toilet. Before promptly peeing his pants, his massive killing intent was suddenly aimed at his location, all emanating from his supposed sensei. Sasuke-chan, Kakashi spoke with a sickly sweet accent, that wasn't very nice or honorable of you, was it? What do you have to say for yourself? Sasuke gulped as the form of Kakashi Hatake loomed over him. The boy grunted defiantly despite his instincts screaming at him to apologize. Ma. Wrong answer, was Kakashi's curt reply as his knuckles cracked louder than a clap of thunder. Naruto and Sakura glanced at Sasuke in a mixture of pity, concern, and anger. Naruto himself couldn't believe his old classmate was that stupid, while Sakura found she couldn't defend him. She herself was rooted firmly in place by the dark aura from their sensei and her voice died in her throat. Sorry, Sasuke-kun, you're on your own. But, you're an Uchiha, you'll be totally fine, right? Next day, Training Ground 7, 4 am. Faster, Sasuke-chan. If you can't recite these passages by memory by the time the sun rises, I'll be forced to ask Naruto for some clones so you can role-play the parts. Teaching manuals do always stress the importance of learning by doing, after all. A perky Kakashi perched upside down on a branch above the black-haired Genin's head, who was currently wishing Itachi had murdered him all those years ago. Taking a deep breath, he tried reading the script once again. Jiraiya stood atop his noble steed Toad, Jamabunta, sword in hand. Msunade sighed happily as her noble knight whispered promises of tea, taking her flower and cupping her beautiful sea cups of pleasure. She promised her knight to take his master sword in her whole of I can't do it. Sasuke Uchiha, emo incarnate, wailed to the sky. Kakashi hummed above him. Well, I could let you stop reading it out loud in attempts to memorize it. Sasuke whipped his bloodshot, sleep-deprived eyes to meet his sadist of a sensei. What is it? I'll do anything. Ma, anything. Excellent. Giggling darkly at his student, Kakashi realized that having genin were worth it, if only for moments like these. Meanwhile, Tenzo took copious notes from a safe distance away. Senpai, what caused you to go off the deep end? Team 7's meeting spot, 3 hours after designated meeting time. Naruto landed a tad awkwardly as he was in the final chapter of Volume 1 finally. Kakashi-sensei had spent the last 3 hours drilling taijutsu stances while a single clone read the history book he was supposed to have read his second year. Now though, with a mask to cover the nosebleed, Naruto was enjoying Rurai's heroic rescue of the princess. Barely glancing up, he intended to give a passing hello when his eyes caught it. Sasuke, his horrible teammate, reading Ika Ika willingly. Ma, sorry we're late, but you see, Naruto was kidnapped by a flamboyant Hyuga who wanted to pull a prank with him and I had to track them down. Kakashi's lazy drawl stopped any questions. Sakura's eye twitched. Yeah right. All Hyugas are the picture of stuffiness. It's not nice to stereotype, or imply that I would ever lie to my cute little genin. The pink-haired genin held up a fist threateningly and the Cyclops sweat dropped at how violent she really was. Accusations aside, to the tower. Hokage Tower, minutes later. Hiruzen's eyebrow twitched violently. Now there wasn't just his best jonin, grandson-like figure, and top Kunoichi blatantly ignoring him for smut, but the last, loyal Uchiha as well. Granted, the Uchiha managed an I don't give a damn look without the orange-covered book, but somehow a novel in his face just pushed Hiruzen's buttons the wrong way. It's spreading like a virus. Hiruzen Sarutobi thought. The aged leader loved his students' work but wouldn't stoop so low as to read it in public. No sane person would. Apparently no one on Team 7 was sane. Team 7, he sighed in resignation. You are to babysit Councilman Homura's grandchildren. Please don't read that in front of them. Dismissed. Sarutobi finished with a flippant wave. He had more important things to worry about than petty things such as sanity in his ranks, like paperwork. I did not just think that, did I? The Hokage realized in horror. 1 week later, after training, Naruto walked alongside his sensei towards a secluded training ground, curious about this alien he kept hearing about. His muscles burned from running up a tree all day. Team 7 had begun basic formation drills and a chakra control exercise after Sasuke finally began on his journey of Ika Ika. Naruto still had extra instruction though, but his sensei had informed him that now that team bonding could happen, instruction could commence. Yash, my eternal rival. The most horrifying noise ever to assault Naruto's ears shouted. Then, he saw it. The green. The eyebrows. It was the alien. With a fearful glance the blonde was horrified that his sensei just remained calm through it all. He is truly a master, the genin thought reverently. Meanwhile, Kakashi preened at his apprentice's starry-eyed look. Oh yes, I'm awesome. Naruto couldn't help but attempt to step back as his supposed opponent twirled towards him in gusto. However, a gloved hand firmly pushed him back with a muttered, "Show no fear." Gulping, Naruto held out a hand. Hello. He tried, only to be pulled into a hug. Hello my most youthful rival. I am Rock Lee, the beautiful green beast of Konoha. Lee shouted in greeting and spun around, carrying a nauseous Naruto along for the ride. Naruto repressed the urge to vomit as he felt lights flashing and a camera clicking. When the world stopped spinning he glared at his sensei, who was happily taking photos and ignoring the green monstrosity. Sensei, he began with an evil smile as an idea struck, don't you think that taking pictures is very youthful? Kakashi turned white and pocketed the camera away with a narrowed eye. How clever, Naruto-chan. I hope you kept more than my wit as Lee is a taijutsu specialist. Not to mention he has over a year in the field, nay. Kakashi retorted to the in his opinion at least little devil child. My rival. As it is our first battle I will let you pick the challenge. Our youth will burn through our opposition to each other. Lee said with gusto. Naruto's sweat dropped before remembering the wise teachings of his sensei. Flashback. Walk over. Naruto raised an eyebrow at his sensei's words. You and Guy sensei don't actually fight? He asked, head tilted in confusion. Of course we do. Well, we do in the sense that it is two shinobi trying to complete opposing tasks or do a task quicker than the other. It's more that Guy really doesn't care whether if I challenge him to rock paper scissors or a no-holds spar. Kakashi replied airily, a lazy eye smile present. So, don't fight this Lee guy in ninja stuff? Naruto asked with squinted eyes. Exactly, my cute little apprentice. I couldn't be prouder. As Naruto continued the walk with lazy purpose, of course he couldn't help but be confused. What's all this talk about apprentices? Back to the present. Naruto resisted the urge to cover his ears as a loud belting laugh drew him from his thoughts. Kakashi, my rival. What a most youthful choice for a battle between men. A rock-paper-scissors battle of the ages. Youth against hip. Mono vs. mono. Guy gave another thumbs up. Kakashi sighed, much to Naruto's awe. Even his sighs are cool. The masked blonde thought. Lee was more vocal in his admiration. Guy sensei, your youth has no limits. Guy sensei. Guy whipped around, tears in his eyes. Lee, your youth burns bright and strong. Oh, Lee. Guy sensei. Lee said with tears streaming down his face. Lee. Might Guy embraced Lee in bone-crushing hug. Guy sensei. Lee embraced back. OLEEE. A sunset appeared behind the youthful pair, its beautifulness marred by the sight of green aliens sharing an intimate moment between sensei and student. Guy sensei. Through all of this, Naruto's mask of learned indifference was broken. Collapsing onto the training grounds, the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails felt his soul depart. Only to have it shoved cruelly back by a jab in the ribs. Ouch! Sensei, he hissed. To the right was Kakashi, face buried in the newest edition of Ika Ika. What did I say about looking at them when they start shouting their names? The Jonin chided. With a final glare, Naruto turned back to the now sunsetted pair, and grinned. Nay, Lee, I know what our first battle should be. Instantly Naruto was inches from a star-eyed Rock Lee. My rival. What shall be our first youthful showcase? Naruto puffed out his chest, and took a deep breath. Lee, I challenge you, to see which sensei is the better shinobi. We will watch them fight each other, through rock paper scissors. He finished. Guy and Lee were twirling in excitement, while Kakashi. That little brat. I never had anyone to fight my battles for me, the sneak. The masked Jonin thought, keeping an outward calm that could put a fence to shame. A most excellent choice, Naruto-san. If your sensei wins, I will run around the village 5,000 times on my pinkies. And if I fail at running around the village on my pinkies, I will do 10,000 push-ups with only my breath. And if I cannot do 10,000 push-ups with only my breath, I will. 5 minutes later, poor Naruto. The training grounds were silent. No movement could be found on them, save for a lone flyer for Ninja Babies R Us. 10% off their first shinobi sandals, that danced between the two challengers in a dusty gust of wind. Listen up, Kakashi, today is the day our tie is broken. Our record is 48-48. Soon it will be 48-49 in my favor. Guy boasted while he stretched despite the lack of physical exertion required for the game of rock paper scissors. Kakashi sighed at his friend's exuberance over the silly challenge. However, he would not be beat, not in front of his student. So, Kakashi Hatake, the famed, comrades must never be left behind or betrayed, cast a subtle genjutsu on his best friend. Without remorse, of course. Let's get this over with then. The masked ninja held out a fisted hand, Might Guy following suit. Rock, they said in unison. Paper, the two genin waited with bated breaths, each believing their sensei would triumph. Scissors. And, just like Kakashi foretold, Guy threw down paper with such gusto it sliced through the air, and in response the copycat ninja nonchalantly cut the paper with his scissors. In one instant, Two green beasts were doomed to a fate of humiliation and absurd exercises, while two, hip and cool, shinobi were given bragging rights and ego boosts. Yada. Naruto shouted before dodging a head slap. Giving a sheepish chuckle, the genin calmed down. Good job, sensei. Come along now, my student, it's time we checked your chakra affinity. Naruto blinked at that, completely ignoring the exuberant duo behind him who had started on their run. But sensei, isn't that stuff for Chunin? The book said so. Ma, don't you worry your pretty little head about what the book says, Naruto. Besides, Ibiki will eat his words when your paper shows lightning. Bah, sensei's wind affinity was so rare, it's doubtful you'd have it, Kakashi muttered the last part. Kakashi sensei, you okay? Naruto asked. Of course, why wouldn't I be? No reason, Naruto assured him, feeling very uneasy when he received a ghostly smile. Good. Now let's go pick your affinity, I mean discover what it is. Meanwhile, in the Hokage Tower. Did Senpai really use genjutsu? One Anbu asked in disbelief. To defeat Guy, another added. At a game. Finished a third Anbu. Forget that. What does he mean by, pick your affinity? Yugao muttered. Well, whatever it is, I'm sure it will be a blast, am I right? A certain Anbu joked. Multiple groans were heard throughout the group crowded around the spying orb while its master was away for a smoke. Meanwhile, Kakashi felt a sudden urge to beat his old subordinates for invading his privacy, much to his confusion. Alright, Naruto, just channel your chakra into the paper and watch it crumple up into a ball. Kakashi ordered cheerfully. A confused Naruto took the paper and let a small amount of his chakra into the square sheet. His confusion rose even more when it didn't crumple up into a ball, but shredded into 6 pieces. Nay, Kakashi-sensei, what's this mean again? I forgot what the paper's properties were. Naruto looked up sheepishly only to see Kakashi staring blankly at the paper shards whispering their way down to the earth, mocking the Jonin the whole way. Not a lightning affinity. They seemed to taunt the Jonin. Sensei, are you alright? The blonde worriedly waved a hand in front of his role model's lone eye. Kakashi blinked and came to his senses. Ma, of course I'm alright, my cute little student. The paper being cut so many times signifies you have a strong wind affinity, it's the rarest affinity in Konoha, actually. Silence rang out before Naruto did a fist bump in the air. Yada, take that, Sasuke Tem. I have something cool you don't, a rare affinity. But, Kakashi interrupted with a raised hand. Seeing as wind is clearly less cool than lightning, we're going to say, screw the test, and unleash your potential as a lighting jutsu master. The Jonin finished off way too cheerfully for the Genins and the Anbu, Hokage who were observing through the crystal ball in Sarutobi's office liking. But sensei, I read in the books that you have to first complete your primary affinity before learning a secondary one. The masked blonde asked the masked silver-haired, who just chuckled. As my student you will learn that such petty expectations are beneath us, hip and cool, shinobi. We get to pick our affinities, with some minor hardships, he whispered the last part. Now, hold on tight. Kakashi said before slugging a protesting Naruto over his shoulder. In a burst of speed they were off to God only knows where. Hokage Tower, minutes later. Hiruzen Sarutobi had never witnessed such insane affinity pride, as he had just seen in one Kakashi Hatake. For one who knew jutsu from every element, the former Anbu captain was rather keen to force an incompatible elemental affinity into an untrained genin. This was not what I was expecting to see when I came in to find 20 of my best and brightest crowded around my orb. The old Kage thought. Resisting a face palm as the Anbu around him exchanged quiet bets over what Kakashi would do next, Sarutobi cleared his throat. Now, why don't we all realize that Kakashi is more than likely just playing a little prank on my surrogate grandson? There would be a better chance of hell freezing over than Kakashi trying something stupid with Naruto. Sarutobi assured everyone and himself closing his eyes and nodding. Sir, Then why are they at the lighting cliffs and why is the orange menace I mean Naruto holding two lighting rods? And Anbu asked sheepishly, pointing to perhaps the stupid training scene anyone had ever seen. The Hokage's eyes popped open before he was instantly on his feet, giving rapid tiger, boar, cat, with me, everyone else on standby. We are going to stop Kakashi before he digs his own and ours grave. With Kakashi and Naruto, moments before at the infamous lightning cliffs. Kakashi-sensei, are you sure this will work? Naruto asked, squinted eyes holding suspicion as he looked from the lightning rods, one in each hand, and the cliff above teeming with endless crackles of lightning. Naruto, have some faith in your favorite sensei, nay. But Iruka-sensei is my favorite. Naruto retorted, defending the man who saved him from Mizuki and always gave him ramen. Never noticing how Kakashi's lone eye darkened, the genin was unaware of how complicated he just made his so-called favorite sensei's life. So you want to play it that way, Iruka? Well, perhaps it's time Kakashi here shows who is top dog. Kakashi thought darkly. With Iruka, dedicated academy teacher Iruka Yumino had just spent his day in the most rewarding way possible grading papers. Yes, the young scarred shinobi in question was not one to bemoan paperwork but embrace it. His whole class being on a field trip to the Konoha berry fields left Iruka the alone time he needed to be productive. Until an unbridled feeling of joy filled his core. Perhaps one of my former students are thanking me for all I taught them, the Academy Chunin thought while sipping on tea. Only to drop it on all the freshly graded papers as pure terror ripped through him. Who the hell did I piss off to be able to send me key so far away? Perhaps a vacation to Iowa is in order if I'm getting this feeling I'm about to be murdered in my sleep here. Back with Naruto and Kakashi. Neither teacher or student realized their affect on poor Iruka Yumino and thus went on with Operation Choose an Affinity. Even if there was really only one willing party to the harebrained scheme. So you want me, a new genin? Naruto started slowly while looking at the cliffs once more. Yes. To take these rods. Well, the metal in kunai aren't as effective as chakra channeling metal, after all. And stand on the cliff, just waiting for lightning to hit me. That would be preferable to nothing happening. Also that I can get a lightning affinity in a way not even you're sure will work. When you put it that way it does sound ludicrous. But, this is chakra-infused lightning as the legends say, and you have super healing from your tenant. I'm sure this will work out. Was Naruto's deadpanned response. He may be a knuckle-headed shinobi, but he wasn't suicidal. If this works I'll teach you my signature lighting jutsu. Naruto gave a still half-suspicious squint. That will beat Sasuke's fire jutsu. Kakashi added into his offer, carrot dangling so tempting in front of the young genin. See you at the top, sensei. Naruto shouted and used his newly acquired tree walking to race up the steep, awe-inspiring cliff. After all, Naruto was a pre-teenage boy, and a genin, also known as the perfect combination to be easily bribed into doing Kakashi's bidding. With a chuckle at his apprentice's future apprentice, he had to remind himself antics. The copycat ninja pulled out his favorite little orange book to pass the time before Naruto rewrote what was possible. 5 minutes later, the now battle-ready Hokage and 3 slightly panting Anbu arrive in time to see the completely insane Naruto Uzumaki, the only person holding back their worst nightmare, proudly lift dual chakra pulls at an incoming bolt. No, Naruto. Sarutobi shouted over the crackle as his surrogate grandson shouted. Yada. With all the force they could muster the new arrivals ran up the rocky side, not paying attention to the fact that Kakashi Hatake was doing the same exact thing, worry having won out at the last instant. In the seal, Kurama, the most dangerous and awesome in his humble opinion of the tailed beasts, had been having a wonderful dream that involved him eating Madara and banning ramen for all eternity. Had been, was the key phrase as more voltage shot through his seal, leaving his hair sticking everywhere, than the time Asura and Indra separated the island of waves using their new toy, the legendary Thunderbolt Kurama's father had crafted for them. Kurama had been sleeping peacefully in a cave for the week when those insufferable brats had, accidentally, sent a spare blast into his temporary lair. Kurama had never liked those humans. Now though, the ancient being would have preferred such a shock compared to being woken up for the first time in almost a decade by his new cantainer's stupidity. I swear, Shukaku has it easy being sealed in those jars. Kurama thought grumpily as he glanced through the brat's memories, which only caused him to face paw. Trying to gain a lighting affinity. What kind of baka thinks this is the way to do it? He thought, this time in utter disbelief. However, checking out the seal for weaknesses and feeling his cantainer's chakra. You have got to be shitting me. The blast not only made his seal stronger but this. I'm going back to sleep. Muttering about the unfairness of the world, Kurama the nine-tailed fox rolled over in an attempt to find another comfortable sleeping position. Back outside the seal, Naruto groaned as he tried to sit up, but felt his Gigi's hand pushing him down. It's okay Naruto, you're alive amazingly so just rest. Sarutobi ordered kindly. Naruto's clothes were intact. Kakashi had only bought him the same clothes he used to wear, which were built for lighting users and the burns were healing up. Naruto nodded along. Kakashi arrived with an eye smile, ignoring the glares of the Hokage and the Anbu even if theirs were hidden. Walking confidently up to his student, Kakashi put a piece of chakra paper in his twitching hands, not commenting on the singed hair that had specks of white. Let's try this again, he ordered. Kakashi, you're lucky he's alive. Senpai, that's not how this works you know. The Anbu protested. They were silenced though by Naruto's paper crumbling up into a tight ball. Kakashi didn't comment but patted his student on the head and carried him off, telling the boy that Ichiraku's was in his future for a job well done. The Anbu and Hokage were sharing slack-jawed looks. Bor moved to comment but felt Tenzo's hand on his shoulder, signifying to shut up. I'm too old for this shit, Sarutobi muttered finally, and started walking home, pipe in hand. When Tuki Ichiraku welcomed his favorite customers arrive, the aged ramen chef repressed his shock. Kakashi Hatake, a boy he's seen go from stoic to heartbroken to eccentric currently, was giving the sky the middle finger while muttering something about the universe-ing it as his apprentice gained lighting superpowers. Next to him was Naruto in the rather fashionable get-up he had taken to wearing since he became a genin, though Tuki was sure lighting sparks and the white specks in his sunny blonde hair was new. Dutifully ignoring the fact that every bowl disappeared behind the masks, the ramen stand owner did what he always did and kept the bowls coming. After all, no matter the strangeness of the scene, Naruto alone would fund the way to his retirement, and one doesn't simply annoy their beachfront mansion fund. Tuki Gigi. Naruto called after 30 minutes and 20 bowls meeting their maker in the Jinchuriki's stomach. Kakashi-sensei is paying, so can I have 5 bowls to go please? Meanwhile Kakashi Hatake felt his life-saving draining into his apprentice-to-be's stomach and mentally cried as Ichiryo was handed over to a cackling ramen stand owner. I need to go lay down. Naruto, normal time tomorrow, okay. The copy nin asked absently and disappeared in a swirl of leaves, bemoaning his choice to treat the legendary ramen vacuum to dinner. Next time I'll just get Tenzo to pay. The man is rather gullible after all. Kakashi chuckled darkly at his inner thoughts once he reached the safety of his apartment. Meanwhile, Naruto started his toddle home with a bag of ramen and enlarged stomach. Waving to the gleeful ramen stand owner and Ayame, the genin never noticed the 4 Anbu surrounding him until he bumped into one. Hey Flamingo Tem, he said automatically at the sight of his arch-nemesis in the core, Flamingo. The two had been at odds since his childhood when he had, accidentally, dumped orange sticky paint on the man on his first day in Anbu, also known as, survived the Orange Terror Day, in the core, not that Naruto was aware. Bane of my existence, Flamingo bit out just as instinctively and the group fell into an awkward silence. The small crowd of Anbu started gathering attention so the agent cleared his throat. Hokage-sama has ordered a full medical evaluation following your defiance of all that is good and natural this afternoon. Please come quietly. Unlike last time went unsaid. Normal genin, heck normal shinobi, would tremble at the sight of 4 Anbu in a diamond formation around them, especially as one was holding a net. Even there was a slight tremble in his hands. Oh yeah, just try it, you couldn't even catch me in the academy. I ain't going to get a shot again. Naruto, based on his bold proclamation, was not an ordinary shinobi. All the Anbu save for Flamingo flinched in remembrance last time Naruto was required to go to the hospital. Despite outward appearances, Konoha had a vested interest in its Jinchuriki being somewhat healthy. As such, yearly checkups and vaccines for various diseases and poisons build up the resistance young, as Danzo proposed when asked why a 6-year-old Naruto was given 60 times the lethal dose for Nightshade were required. For the first few years, it was child's play to drag the screaming child to his 2-day stint where he would receive a checkup, shots, and a seal evaluation. Of course he was unconscious for this part. The plan was to make Konoha's Jinchuriki able to survive longer when assassination attempts inevitably happened. However, over the years it got increasingly difficult to impart the gift of immunity to the brat. Last year it turned into a 10-day-long evasion course by the child who ended up being captured by Iruka Yumino and 17 Anbu who needed 15 times the lethal dose of sedatives to take him down for an hour. The night the blonde terror was captured had been filled with cheers and alcohol at Anbu HQ. Now though, Flamingo wasn't sure his squad could beat the Orange Menace who could spam the use of shadow clones and tree walking with terrifying ease. No longer did they have that advantage over the brat, much to the ANBU's ire. Hokage-sama insisted on giving Naruto the chance to be mature and head in willingly, hence the wait for Kakashi Baka, Flamingo's personal nickname for his old rival captain, to leave in a food coma induced Naruto to head out. Too bad for the idealistic Hokage, but Kakashi Hatake was notorious for vehemently hating all things medical, and had instructed his pupil on the art of evading the white coat teams. Catch me if you can. The genin screamed as he switched with a random stranger using a kawarimi before a net could be placed. Flamingo's eye twitched while he began giving orders even as 500 banes of his existence covered the streets. All units, after the menace. Do not let him reach the forest. I repeat. Do not let him reach the forest. The irate and hysterical captain barked into his headset. Sure, cousin. The one voice Flamingo didn't want to hear crackled over the radio waves. The Hyuga Anbu ripped his headset out and glared at his subordinates. Somebody, anybody, get me Iruka Yumino. Something tells me he's our only hope. Yes, Captain, was the resounding reply. With Iruka, moments before, at his apartment. One Iruka Yumino was finally settled down after settling his nerves from earlier. His mind was in turmoil as he sipped a fresh cup of tea. Man, I need a vacation if it took 30 minutes to calm myself from a feeling. I'm a beloved academy teacher and Mizuki is in prison, who could possibly wish me harm? The oblivious instructor stretched his sore muscles when his friend Deer from Anbu suddenly crashed through the window like a married Ika fan during that time of the month. Aye, was Iruka's shrill reaction. Poising his now empty cup as a weapon, the Chunin prepared to strike the imposter down, as Deer was extremely introverted. Nani, Iruka-senpai, it's me, Haku Sadachi, your childhood friend. Deer removed his mask just enough for his face to be shown. Indeed, Iruka's dear friend and Kahai was staring back at him with terror-filled eyes. Iruka sighed and set his teacup down. Haku, what's wrong? Mice are generally louder than you. Haku shifted from foot to foot. Well, you see, it's about Naruto-san. Iruka was across the room and shaking Deer violently. What's happened? Is he hurt? Did he get kidnapped? Tell me now. Deer turned green under his mask as Iruka continued the barrage of questions and held up his hands for mercy. Oh, I apologize, Haku. I get a tad overprotective about Naruto. Please, proceed with telling me who I must kill. Haku Sadachi wished his old senpai a pleasant life in hell as he described why Naruto must be captured quickly with a hidden sweat drop. 10 minutes later. I'll kill that son of a bitch. Let me go Haku or you'll become a casualty. Uruka struggled against Deer's firm hand. Senpai, don't you think we should first bring Naruto-san in for a checkup? Deer asked, ever the voice of reason. That stopped Uruka cold. Quote, comma dot. Of course, Uruka said after a moment. Let's go scoop up my wayward student. Excellent plan, senpai. Then it's off with Kakashi's balls. Quote, comma dot quote. Deer wisely chose not to answer and followed the legendary, Orange Menace Tracker, as the scarred man was known in Anbu. With Naruto. Naruto cackled in glee as he evaded yet another Anbu with a net by switching with clones. Said clone created more Narutos while the original flooded 500 more across the edge of the village. Running through the back streets, Naruto found himself in an abandoned part of Konoha that itched of death from the Kyuubi attack. Though cleaned up, I still get a creepy vibe from this place, Naruto shuddered at the barren ruins. A clone popping itself nearby to warn the original about advancing Anbu made him push forward, however, through an old ramen shop that had obviously seen better days. Going through the store, Naruto saw an open door off to the side with a cellar door. What's this? He mused aloud when it opened to a dark passageway before shrugging and doing what any preteen boy would do in a shinobi village, he entered it with zero regard for safety. 20 minutes of scurrying later, Naruto was having a blast peeking into the weird rooms that scattered the corridors, though he made a mental note to not go back to the one with severed heads on spikes. Those losers will never find me now. The Jinchuriki boasted in the spirit of adventure only to turn a corner and crash into something solid. Gathering his bearings, the genin blinked and let his eyes go upwards. And thus, Konoha's Jinchuriki staring a confused Danzo Shimura in the eye. Something tells me I'm not supposed to be here. The boy thought with trepidation. What's this? He mused aloud when it opened to a dark passageway before shrugging and doing what any preteen boy would do in a shinobi village, he entered it with zero regard for safety. 20 minutes of scurrying later, Naruto was having a blast peeking into the weird rooms that scattered the corridors, though he made a mental note to not go back to the one with severed heads on spikes. Those losers will never find me now. The Jinchuriki boasted in the spirit of adventure only to turn a corner and crash into something solid. Gathering his bearings, the genin blinked and let his eyes go upwards. And thus, Konoha's Jinchuriki staring a confused Danzo Shimura in the eye. Something tells me I'm not supposed to be here. The boy thought with trepidation. In Root's passageways, with Naruto. Naruto looked up at the weird bandaged guy in slight confusion, feeling a chill run up his spine. For some reason the man in front of him screamed, I hate ramen. Say, mummy man, do you like ramen? Naruto asked, tilting his head. Back with Iruka, and poor dear. Konoha's resident, Orange Menace Tracker, was looking in horror at the blonde and white speckled-haired masses. All 500 or so cackling genin were goading Iruka with, nay, Iruka-sensei, which one of us is the real one, and other such immature drabble. The Chunin ignored them all however, and smirked. None of you, he said confidently. Every single Anbu in the vicinity stiffened at the implication. Now, all of you dispel or I'll make the real you help out in Konohamaru's class for a month. The air hung heavy as the clones contemplated that, then as one they all went poof. Deer mechanically turned to his senpai. Say senpai, if you ever want a pay raise, Anbu has a spot for you. Deer promised. Iruka chuckled nervously and rubbed the back of his head. Hey, I'm happy where I am, but thank you, now it's time to find my knuckle-headed student. Iruka pulled a small tuning fork from his vest and Anbu surrounded the man. Now, he says while making the Ram Seal, Academy Super Secret Jutsu, Troublemaker Tracker. The fork began to glow and pulled Iruka in the direction of run-down portion of the village. Like puppies whose mother held a treat, the Anbu dutifully followed their Chunin comrade, one thought shared amongst them. I will bribe this god amongst men for that jutsu. Back to Danzo and Naruto. Danzo Shimura, the darkness of shinobi and most dangerous man in the shadows, blinked back surprise. It wasn't often someone could make him do a double take, but the resident Jinchuriki had done it twice. However, Danzo never looked a gift horse in the mouth, and dredged up from his memory everything his agents told him about the brat. Putting on a kind smile, Danzo looked his future weapon in the eye. Why, of course, young shinobi, only a monster would hate ramen. Only Danzo's shinobi training kept him from gagging. Truthfully, the root leader abhorred the dish. His late wife had made it every night, and the woman was a rather unique culinary artist. Never had someone burned water. When the Jinchuriki brightened in happiness, Danzo knew he had done the right thing. It was now just a simple case of kidnapping the boy. All for the good of Konoha, of course. Well then, you're clearly not evil. The boy declared in absolute certainty. No. Well, Iruka-sensei just made every single one of my clones dispel. He admitted sheepishly while rubbing his forehead, slightly dizzy. He never noticed Danzo's eye sharpen slightly. How would you like to learn a jutsu? Danzo stuck the carrot out there. Unsurprisingly, it worked like a charm with the Chunin. Yada. Would I ever? You're the best, Mummy-san, Naruto yelled in happiness. To Danzo's horror, there seemed to be stars in the boy's eyes. Funny. I wasn't aware he could cast genjutsu. Wait, why can't Shisui's eye expel it? The root leader was highly disturbed, but took control of the situation quickly. First off, you must follow some rules. Anything. Naruto promised while he followed Danzo through the halls. Rule number 1. You will only address me as Danzo-sama, while I am instructing you. Right, Danzo-sama. Second, you will listen to everything I say, when I say it. The blonde had pulled out the Ika Ika novel he had been reading, ignoring the slight sparks that came off the pages due to the ordeal it had went through. Growing a twitch from the clear disrespect, Danzo snatched the book away. Our first order of business is to rid you of your bad habits, particularly the ones that failure of a Hatake has instilled upon you. With a harsh glare, Danzo snapped his fingers and the offending book burst into flames. And that's when the halls filled with a torrent of red chakra. Naruto's eyes were shadowed by his bangs, but the cloak spoke of his feelings perfectly. You mock my sensei, and then you dare to burn the first gift anyone has given me in person. I'll kill you. By the end, Naruto's voice had become demonic and he rushed Danzo's still form with outstretched, clawed hands. With surprising speed augmented by Kyuubi's chakra and accuracy from Kakashi's training, Naruto aimed at the throat. Danzo dodged backwards with great limberness not befitting his years and made a single hand sign. You will cease this immediately. The War Hawk commanded. Tree branches that oozed Hashirama cells ensnared the berserk Jinchuriki, and multiple root agents created a semicircle around the blonde. One walked up and knocked the boy out with the blunt end of a kunai. Please tell me our chakra barriers are still up, Danzo said. The one with the kunai nodded. Of course, Danzo-sama. Excellent. Fu, take the weapon to a cell and then prepare a rumor of Orochimaru kidnapping it. That upstart was always too bitter about Minato, so him snatching his son is entirely plausible. Hi, Danzo-sama. The root Anbu bowed and followed their orders to perfection. Soon, I will have a perfectly obedient weapon to destroy Hiruzen with and protect Konoha. Danzo chuckled. It seems karma is finally paying me back for how wonderful I am. With that ego boost, he ambled down the hall and prepared for the endless council meetings this would cause. Inside the seal, Kurama was not happy with today. Not only was he rudely awoken by his inane container defying every law of nature Kurama held dear, and strengthened the seal, but then managed to yank his chakra away from him. Then, to top it off, Kurama was subjected to that thrice-damned wood style that Hashirama Tem captured him with. Now his container was sitting in front of him with a tilted head, looking extremely confused. It was clearly not the fox's day. Hey, you're the Kyuubi, aren't you? The blonde brat asked. Kurama's eye twitched. No, I'm a fluffy 11-eared rabbit. Of course I'm the Kyubi no Kitsune you ingrain. Kurama roared and beat his head into the bars. It seemed he was fated to be stuck with someone who was half blind or all stupid. Kurama didn't know yet which one his container fit into. Oh, well, where are we and how do I get out so I can beat that bastard up for insulting Kakashi-sensei? Naruto asked. Single quote comma single quote. Huff, if you're not going to tell me I'll make you. And with that, Naruto walked through the bars and jumped on Kurama's nose. Kurama sputtered at the sheer audacity of the brat but was too shocked to move. Nobody, not even Hashirama Tem, dared to get on his nose when he wasn't restrained. Well, where am I? And my name's Naruto. What's yours? Grr. Why would I care what your name is? Much less tell you mine. Slitted red eyes met sparkling blue. Naruto shrugged. Well, the book on manners that Kakashi-sensei made me read said to give your name before asking for someone else's. And I don't think calling you, Fuzzy Buddy, is a good idea. Naruto said with a grin behind the face mask. Kurama couldn't help it. He face-faulted. We're in your seal obviously, you got us captured by that man with one eye. Currently they are placing chakra suppression seals on your body. Oh, well, how do I get out of here? Naruto asked frantically. Kurama rolled his eyes. Just focus on leaving. Okay. Thanks Fuzzy Buddy. Naruto exclaimed and casually jumped off the large fox. Don't you dare call me, the great Kurama, Fuzzy Buddy. I will end you. I will flay your flesh and burn your pathetic village to the ground, I will. So your name's Kurama. Cool. Later Kurama, I'll come visit soon. With a final wave Naruto disappeared and Kurama realized he'd been tricked. By a 13-year-old. Who couldn't even control a chakra element yet? Curse you Naruto Uzumaki. Here the fox paused before adding, and you too Minato. Naruto sniggered when he woke up in the damp cell alone. Glad Kakashi-sensei's lessons on, pissing your opponent off into doing what you want, paid off. He couldn't wait to tell his sensei about it over ramen. But first, how to get out of here? The room was full of chakra-suppressing seals, as was he, according to Kurama, and he was wrapped in a straitjacket. Hey, too bad, but Kakashi-sensei taught us all how to get out of such petty restraints. Naruto remembered that day rather fondly, as it was the first time Sasuke lost in a fair contest with him. Flashback. Several days before in the forest. I just spread some bear hormones on all of you. I'd say you have an hour tops before a lonely bear comes looking for love. You have until then to escape, Kakashi remarked viciously and used a shunshin to leave. Sakura turned to her teammates. Naruto, Sasuke-kun, we have to get out of here. Stiff nods from the males were her answer. How though? Kakashi took away our chakra and weapons and were in shinobi-grade straitjackets, Sasuke pointed out. The three struggled uselessly for an hour before a bear lumbered by. He sniffed the air, and hearts formed. Turning to the source of such a sexy scent, the bear roared and began walking like a stud straight towards Sasuke. Hey there Miss Sexy, I'm the best grizzly out here, why not join me in my cave? The bear asked, not that any of the genin could understand, and then gave the broody genin a slobbery kiss. Naruto, motivated to not be noticed, and making his move while Sasuke was paralyzed, he discovered the secrets to the bonds. Like a good teammate, he freed Sakura and Sasuke. And like a hip and cool shinobi, he took black male pictures first. Back to the present. Naruto smirked at the beautiful memory and applied the skills that no Jonin instructor would teach their genin. Well, most Jonin didn't know how to escape this trap themselves. Within 5 minutes Naruto was free and tried to door. And sweat dropped when he discovered it wasn't locked. Do people really underestimate me this much? He pouted while ignoring the fact it was his stupidity that got him in the current mess to begin with. With the infiltration skills Kakashi drilled into him, Naruto began navigating the dank tunnels in hopes of getting back to the surface. Okay. Escape Psycho Mummy Man, find Kakashi-sensei, avoid the Anbu teams who want to stick needles in me, and then kick Psycho Mummy's tail for making fun of Kakashi-sensei. Naruto thought while running. Entrance to Route. Iruka, a dozen Anbu, and Hiruzen who had joined, for the field demonstration of Iruka's fascinating jutsu, stared at the corridors underneath an abandoned ramen shop. Flamingo activated his Byakugan on instinct and gasped. Hokage-sama, my Byakugan is blocked from seeing down here. The Anbu reported. Hiruzen went into Hokage mode in an instant, recognizing the structure as one of Danzo's old root bases. Anbu, we are going down into a very foolish yet powerful man's base of operation. One I thought was at least under my control. Follow me and prepare to fight to protect Naruto-kun. Iruka stay. A cloud of dust was left where Iruka stood only moments ago as the man charged with abandon into the underground tunnels. Here. Hiruzen finished in annoyance. With a sigh he had Anbu follow them as he summoned a bow staff in preparation. Despite the fact Danzo deserved every last drop of Iruka's ire, Hiruzen sent a quick prayer for the old fool. With Iruka, minutes later, Iruka ran like the kunoichi of hell were on him, knowing Naruto was nearby judging by the way the tuning fork was vibrating. Turning a sharp corner he found his wayward student who looked rather lost. Naruto! He exclaimed and engulfed the genin in a bone-crushing hug. Iruka-sensei, what are you doing here? How'd you even find me? Naruto asked through gasps of air. Iruka discreetly hid his device into his flak jacket and began berating the boy. You idiot! What were you thinking? Running from Anbu, hiding in a bunker. And, not to mention, letting yourself get struck by lightning. Naruto gulped. Well, you see, sensei. We're going to the hospital right now for a full checkup. Kakashi better have a good explanation for this. Iruka started dragging Naruto by the ear. All the Anbu were slack-jawed and deer whistled when the duo passed. No, I refuse. First that mummy man Danzo tries to lock me up and now you want to take me to that horror house. The blonde dug his heels in and glared at his teacher in defiance. He hated those checkups. They gave him shots, made him feel like he was going to die, and he could never remember half of the visit. Due to this, Naruto Uzumaki was sure of one thing: hospitals were bad. Iruka and the Anbu were about to force him when Hiruzen spoke. Naruto-kun, he said kindly. Naruto turned with tears in his eyes. Hokage Gigi, if you go willingly, I will give your team a C rank, outside the village, and take you out for ramen. The last part caused internal turmoil, but the aged leader figured Kakashi could foot the bill. Suddenly it was Iruka being yanked towards the exit as the blonde suddenly knew exactly how to get outside. Hokage-sama, Flamingo asked his leader. I know, Flamingo, keep going forward. Naruto confirmed it. I have a former friend to flay. Next day, Gates of Konoha. Yada. Another mission. Naruto cheered only to sober up slightly at Kakashi's reminder of, hip and cool shinobi don't say yada. Ma, calm down. Our mission is to deliver this. Kakashi holds up a scroll with an official Hokage seal, to our spy master in the land of lightning. It's not time sensitive, so we will be training on the way. Now, let's go before Iruka finds me, notices Naruto left the hospital. With happy smiles from all at the information of a mission and training, Team 7 set off, Kakashi resisting the urge to look behind him, knowing it would somehow summon that demon. Oh, how Kakashi regretted underestimating his opponent for Naruto's favorite sensei. No matter, Kakashi would return stronger and ready to smite the blight that was Iruka Umino. It was his new Nindo. Amongst his thoughts was a dark chuckle at Danzo Shimura's current predicament. Tenzo had promised to save him a private session with the bastard that attempted to steal his precious apprentice. Some days, it was good to be a Jonin. Naruto was currently glaring at the leaf between his fingers. Kakashi-sensei had handed him a pouch with almost 300 leaves from the village with instructions to make it crumble with just chakra. So far Naruto managed to make his 50th leaf crumble instead of cut on the edges if one squished their eyes closed while under a genjutsu. He thought it was an obvious improvement from 2 days ago when they started out. While Naruto was glaring at his leaf, Sakura was balancing a kunai in her palm for more chakra control. Kakashi would have let her just read a book the entire time, but his cute little apprentice insisted on being fair. Kakashi would have rolled his eyes at the thought, seeing as advanced chakra control wasn't technically in the required curriculum, for Genin, and Naruto was getting it only because he was to be Kakashi's clone. However, the faster he trained the other two Genin, the faster they'd become Chunin. The faster they became Chunin, the faster he'd have Naruto all to himself. That twisted logic was what led to him having Sasuke read a book on basic escape maneuvers that could be used in the Chunin exams and would look impressive to proctors enough to make him pass, hopefully. His Genin would all be Chunin their first try, Kakashi vowed. The next two exams were in Iwa and Kumo, respectively, and the Jonin doubted he'd be allowed to send his sensei's son and Jinchuriki to a foreign nation for exams. Rarely ever did a Jinchuriki go to another nation for their exams. It was basically a surefire way to make your allies red, potential enemies to slaughter mercilessly, be suspicious, and send assassins after your village's resident Jinchuriki. No, they would pass this exam. Even Sakura and Kakashi could rest easy knowing he gave the two non-apprentices a solid start to being loyal shinobi and kunoichi. Naruto looked at his slightly smug-looking sensei in concern. Why does he keep looking at all of us like trophies? The blonde thought. However, his concern was forgotten when his leaf crumbled up into a tight ball. Sensei. Look. Look. I did it. I did it. Yada. I'm the best. Naruto cheered. Kakashi sent a long-suffering sigh at how uncool it was, but gave his student an eye smile nonetheless. Good work, Naruto. Now, just do that over and over. Nay. Until when? The boy questioned. Kakashi's eye smile grew a little cruel. Until your fingers bleed. Remember, the bloodiest shinobi is the strongest shinobi. Kakashi quipped. Sakura gulped with Naruto. The Uchiha clan doesn't do bloody. Sasuke scoffed, remembering how his father would always lecture on staying clean while slaughtering the masses, enemy masses, of course. It was tradition. Even Itachi was hardly bloody after killing everyone, an impressive feat Sasuke had to admit. Neither does the Haruno clan. Sakura added. Sakura-chan, there is no Haruno clan, Naruto pointed out, remembering his textbook on the known clans. There is now, Naruto Baka. Sakura replied dangerously. Naruto wisely shut up and reached for another leaf. However, the group was walking by a shrine for the local fox deity. Naruto, being Naruto, set off a series of events by one stupid decision. There you go, he cheered after setting a ramen cup in the offering box and wiping off the lid. The blonde-figured Kurama would appreciate him feeding the fox spirits. As Kakashi rolled his and the group continued their journey, none noticed the pair of fox eyes that peered from the bushes at the boy who smelled of foxes. The next morning, Kakashi knew sleeping in the wild so close to the border with lightning was a terrible idea, so he did the only thing an awesome sensei such as himself could do. He footed the bill for a hotel room. Well, 2 rooms, no way was he sharing a sleeping space with 3 genin, sensei's son or not. So, with an eye smile and threats to behave, Kakashi went to his private room and relaxed for the evening, completely expecting the morning to be uneventful. Oh, how wrong he was. When his team met on the road to continue their journey, his precious little apprentice had betrayed him. For a fox. There, sitting smugly on his sensei's son's shoulders was a black fox with red eyes. Idly Kakashi noticed Sasuke was nursing his hand and inching away from the creature. Kakashi-sensei. Look, I got a summons. Naruto bragged, twisting the knife of treachery deeper into Kakashi's heart. No, Kakashi shouted to the heavens. Why does he never get the dog contract? 3 confused genin and an annoyed fox looked at him and Kakashi cleared his throat. Naruto. Let's have a little chat. Just the 2 of us, okay. Once they were alone in a nearby forest, Kakashi gave his apprentice to be a hard look. The fox. Explain. Now. Hey. Naruto scratched his mask nervously. See, it started like this. Previous night, with Naruto. After his teammates fell asleep, Sakura trying to snuggle with Sasuke, Naruto left the stuffy hotel room for the cool night air. The moon was full and the lush forest around him felt like home. PSSH, kid. A voice called from a bush. Naruto jumped up, scared out of his wits. Ha, what a scaredy kid, who would have guessed you'd be Kurama-sama's vessel? You know about Kurama, Naruto blurted out to the disembodied voice before realizing his mistake. I mean, Ma, who cares about Kurama, why are you here? He finished lamely. Apparently his Kakashi channeling powers were ineffective at night. The voice seemed to sweat drop. Yeah sure, kid. Anyways, I watched you put that divine food into our collection box today. Yeah, ramen is divine, Naruto drooled. Wait, you saw that? Of course. The voice boasted. Well fine, now who are you? I'm Naruto Uzumaki. The voice scoffed and started circling him. Who me? I am the darkness of the clan, the best at all things awesome. I'm the one humans fear and foxes envy. I'm the president of the Kurama fan club, and most amazing tracker ever. Who am I? Kuro-sama the cool. Out jumped a cat-sized fox who carried a smirk. Naruto blinked, taking in the black fur, white paws, and red eyes. Before falling on the ground laughing. Kuro seemed to take offense to that and bit his ear. Oi, shut up, I'll have you know I'm the son of the chief. Sorry. Just, why are you here? Hey, glad you asked. I have a proposition for you, Kuro began. Back to the present, and then he let me sign the Fox contract. I'm like the third summoner ever, is that cool? Even if their initiation test was really difficult. Naruto finished. Kakashi face-palmed at this ludicrous explanation, finding the irony that the Fox clan was as obsessed with ramen as his student, not amusing since the boy signed the contract. It wasn't fair, he reasoned. His apprentice should summon dogs, not foxes. Wait, a shinobi could have two contracts. And if Naruto ended up favoring the clearly superior dog contract? Well, all the better. Naruto, could you go grab that stick on the other side of the clearing for me? Ma, sure sensei. Naruto chirped in as cool of a voice as he could, walking somewhat lazily away. Kakashi was so proud. Nay, Kuro, he drawled when they were alone, swiping the fox off his student was child's play. That's Kuro-sama to you commoner. I could kill you before you could blink. Kuro is fine. Glad we agree. Now, Kuro, please leave. I know you are feeding off of Naruto's chakra. Now be a good summons and poof away. Kakashi said with a vindictive, if hidden, smirk. Kuro sputtered, but a flare of Kakashi's chakra made the creature whimper and disappear with a huff and promises of revenge. Hey, where'd Kuro go? Naruto asked when he returned with a random stick. Kakashi chuckled. Oh, the precious creature had things to do. The one-eyed Jonin lied. Naruto tilted his head suspiciously before shrugging. All right, ready to go? He asked. With a gleam in his eye, Kakashi pulled out a scroll he had been planning to save for the Chunin exams. Wait, Naruto, I have a little gift for you. Huh, was his intelligent reply. On the road once more. And that's how Kakashi successfully completed another checked box on his mini-me plan. Naruto was now the proud owner of the dog contract and had Pakun's youngest on his head. Unlike most clans, the dog contract was not connected to every summon in their species, but rather smaller packs, each holding 30 to 40 canines at any one time. Kakashi and now Naruto was affiliated with Pakun's pack and would have access to any of the adults in the pack, even if Kakashi himself only summoned the same elite few. Naruto was being primed for the next generation. If the pup would stop letting the puppy chew on the white strands in his hair like a pansy that is. Oh well, he can learn to be the boss of them after the mission I suppose, Kakashi lamented. Sasuke looked absolutely livid at the idea that the former, Dobi, had two summoning contracts, but Kakashi quickly corrected that by dangling a fire dragon jutsu scroll in front of the Avenger. It would take the boy weeks to learn and thus out of Kakashi's hair, as it should be. Sakura looked miffed at not getting something, so Kakashi just had to part ways with an easy genjutsu scroll. It would be enough to get them through the exams, hopefully. Oh, the things he did for the ungrateful brats. Hey, we're here, Naruto shouted, pointing at the hot spring they were supposed to be meeting the spy master at. The blonde was excited and didn't even notice when the puppy puked in his hair from motion sickness. Tisk. No need to shout. Now let's get this over with. Sasuke ordered. Ma, why don't you three go eat lunch in town? Nay. I'll go to the meeting and we can leave within an hour. You don't want us there, sensei? Naruto asked, downtrodden. Sakura shared his expression and Kakashi began to sweat. No, but it's boring. Now shoo, he replied. How could he tell them that Jiraiya was the spy master and no doubt would want to meet Naruto? No way in hell, not if Kakashi had something to say about it. The literary genius would probably try to pass on the Toad contract and make the boy his apprentice. Jiraiya wrote genius literature, and Kakashi would hate to have to kill the man. Nobody messed with his apprentice. Nobody. Oh, alright, let's go guys. Sakura relented and led her teammates away, Naruto suggesting ramen. Meanwhile, in the seal, Kurama banged his head against his cage's wall in outrage. How dare that disgusting group of half-wits trick his moronic container into signing the contract? I should have killed them when I had the chance. The Kyuubi chastised himself, hating that he showed mercy all those centuries ago. Less than 100 years after Kurama was unsealed from his father, a group of fox kits stumbled into his napping place. Normally Kurama would have eaten them, but the kits called him Kurama-sama, and worshipped him. It was nice after being alone and grieving, so in his infinite wisdom he taught them about chakra and how to speak human. Then they never wanted to leave. The first batch of the foxes were cute. The 20th, not so much. But, Kurama couldn't just kill them, it was too evil. So, he snuck out like a coward one night and ran to the other side of the continent. Since then, they've spread like viruses. No matter how many he killed or threatened, they just kept popping up everywhere. When Mito sealed him, he thought he was free as her status was secret. It was the only good thing about being sealed like his pathetic siblings. Until now. Now, his idiotic container became their summoner and friends with his fan club's president. It was an outcry. Time to try to talk Naruto into slaughtering them. Yeah, maybe killing them at their source would work. Contented, Kurama curled up for another nap. Back outside, with Kakashi. After his genin left, the Jonin strolled into the hot springs bar and ordered the Gamma special, as was the code. The bartender gave a subtle nod and soon Jiraiya was sitting next to him. Strangely enough all the patrons left. Jiraiya-sama. Kakashi lifted his glass. Jiraiya grinned, his wart seeming to be bigger than Kakashi remembered. Oi, brat, sensei didn't tell me your team would be the messenger. Where's the kids? I've been meaning to meet my godson. The Sannin inquired. Kakashi lazily slid the scroll he'd been protecting over. There, occupied and we're on a schedule. Nonsense. I'll even pay for your team to sleep at the hot spring for the night. Hey, perhaps he could start summoning, or the Rasengan. Absolutely not. He's my apprentice and as such I'll be teaching him the Rasengan. Kakashi bit back, affronted. Now you listen here brat, there's an organization called, Jiraiya started before he was cut off. Kakashi-sensei, help! Team 7 shouted as one as they bolted into the restaurant as one. A shark guy tried to eat us. All three sported minor wounds, Naruto having yellow-colored hands. Kakashi was alert and was about to order them to calm down and tell him exactly what happened. But then Kisame Hoshigaki, notorious S-ranked criminal, appeared in the doorway with different colored paints on his strange cult-like robe. The red clouds were a nice touch though, Kakashi admitted. Nobody pranks Kisame and lives. Nobody. Now come here and die like men. Of course Naruto would prank an S-class nin, of course. You say something. he asks while flipping out his book. Sasuke grows a tick. Don't change personalities. I know you heard me, Dobi. Tisk, tisk, Sasuke-chan, don't insult your elders. I'm over 6 months older than you, Sasuke deadpanned. Details, details. Naruto waved his hand flippantly. Following his nose, the trio plus Ninken arrived to one of the top ramen stands in the world, ranked 5th in overall ranking. Naruto was not ashamed to admit he'd been hoping for a mission in the area just to taste such divine flavors. Only to stop at the horrid sight in front him. The stand, that was supposed to be full of over 500 flavors, was closed. Sold out. Come back tomorrow. SS sold out. How is the heavenly dish all gone? Naruto screamed mentally. A lone worker was sweeping the porch area and looked up with a gulp when a large wave of killing intent was aimed directly at him. Sir. The poor worker, a man no older than 18 who stayed a civilian for safety, asked. I apologize if this is an inconvenience. A rather large man who looked like a shark came in and ate every last bowl. And the tip was most generous. Do not worry, though, if you like I could reserve you a bowl tomorrow. Naruto felt his eyes flash red and Pakumi started growling at the man. Sakura backed away as the oppressive aura filled the air, though Sasuke was too busy looking ahead. Dobi, isn't that the man? He said with a smirk, figuring he could use some entertainment. The last time someone ate Ichiraku out of stock before Naruto got there, they were still in the psych ward despite the fact the boy was only 6 at the time. This should be amusing. Naruto whipped his head up at the man who dared to get between him and one of his dreams. Stalking over to the man with intent, he shoved his finger in his face. Yo, are you the bastard who took my ramen-sama? Well, are you? Naruto accused. Kisame blinked in surprise at the shrimp in front of him that clearly needed to learn face masks were so last war. Normally, Kisame would kill the brat for such insolence, but doing so on a mission and in a public spot would bring trouble, especially as the brat was a Konoha shinobi. So, Kisame channeled all his powers of patience learned from babysitting missions well, the ones he didn't, accidentally, drop the tykes off the side of a cliff, that is, and just scoffed. Yeah, so, the place was cheaper than most others here. Even if it was subpar to sushi. Naruto looked like he had the blood ed out of him and Kisame used that time to smirk and walk away. Truthfully the ramen was delicious but messing with the brat obviously a genin was what made getting up in the morning worth it. Naruto wasn't one to let such evil get away though. In a flurry of motion he pulled out a scroll and unsealed his entire paint balloon collection. All 100 of them. Next, Naruto forced some in his teammates' hands, who reluctantly agreed simply because it was easier to join Naruto than resist. In a silent countdown, Team 7 flung the balloons infused with chakra and paint at the unsuspecting Kisame that was just too tired and full of his feast to pay attention to what genin were doing. Suddenly, Kisame's backside was full of yellow, pink, and brown paint. He whipped around with his sword drawn, only to get hit again in the front by over 50 rapid-fire balloons. Ha, looser, that will show you not to insult Ramen-sama. Naruto crowed. Kisame lost his cool at the blonde and white boy and his lackeys in front of him. You brats, prepare to die, Kisame shouted and flung a water dragon at the genin. Unfortunately, the heathens dodged and ran the opposite way. With a battle cry, Kisame chased them, intent on destroying such vile creatures. Back to where we left our hero. Kakashi was instantly in battle mode and pushed his genin behind him protectively. Naruto, now sure he was invincible with his sensei around, gave Kisame the finger. Nah, maybe if you weren't such a pansy who hated Ramen-sama, I wouldn't have had to throw paint at you. Naruto mocked. Kakashi felt his eye twitch at his apprentice. Did he want them to die? Judging from the boy's taunting, Kakashi was convinced that was exactly what Naruto wanted. Kisame Hoshigaki, the Biju without a tail. Kakashi states lazily, hand already on his headband and ready to be lifted. Jiraiya smirked. Oi, You're one of the Akatsuki, right? Kisame stiffened then grinned back. And what if I am? You're one of the Sannin. I'll enjoy feeding your chakra to my sword, Samahata. Silence followed for 3 seconds. The air became thick as 3 S-class shinobi flared their chakra. Suddenly, the genin were safely in the mouth of a toad as Jiraiya met Kisami's sword with his wrist plate. Grr. You're pretty quick for an old man. Kisame growled as Jiraiya felt his chakra get ed out. Kisame jumped back and through the wall as Kakashi pushed a Raikiri towards his side. The tree landed outside and met Kakashi's next attack with a bored yawn. You don't know how lucky you are. If I wanted to, you two would have been dead before you could form a hand sign. Jiraiya summoned a toad and engaged the nuke nin in taijutsu. You say something. Kakashi asked despite his apprehension. They had to be careful, as fighting in a foreign country in the middle of the street was potentially dicey political-wise. Kisame grew a tick mark and kicked the Jonin away. Tell me where that blondie is so I can kill him, and I might let you live. The shark man demanded. Nope. Where is he? Somewhere safe. With Naruto. When yanked inside a toad that dispels, one does not think to end up in a cushy hotel room. Where are we? Sakura asked after the three blinked away their surprise of being eaten. Naruto rubbed his chin and gave an eye smile. His teammates leaned in. I have no idea. Cue Sakura pummeling him. Naruto, you baka. Stop goofing around. Cha. Alright, Sakura-chan. An explosion sounded outside and the three had to steady themselves with chakra. Pakumi was shaking. Nay, Pakumi-chan, go back, alright. Naruto petted the pup on his head who gladly dispelled. Kakashi is fighting that way, let's go. Are you insane, Sasuke? That guy looked really strong. And he was able to use a water dragon without water nearby. I need strong opponents. To beat him, Sasuke clenched his fists. Naruto looked worried but gulped. Sasuke's right, we can't leave Sensei and that weird white-haired guy who summoned the toad to fight Fish Face alone. Come on, we can take him. With what? We barely know jutsu. Sakura pointed out. In response the blonde had a wicked gleam in his eye. Now, my dear Sakura. That won't be a problem. Back with Kakashi, Jiraiya, and Kisame. Kisame was having a blast, sending out random jutsu and tearing into the two S-classers who dare keep him from his revenge. His only regret was that Itachi was too busy to be there with him. The man had suddenly run out of Pocky when they arrived in the town. With Itachi, said man was calmly eating his large hoard of Pocky at a safe distance outside town. When he and Kisame had arrived, his orange menace senses went haywire. So, like the fantastic shinobi Itachi was, he ran away in a dignified manner. I wonder what my foolish little brother is doing. I hear he got teamed up with the orange menace, shoot. Don't worry Sasuke, I'm coming. And thus the teen raced back to town, deciding that no matter how much he wanted to run away from Naruto on a prank war, that would hopefully result in either his or Kisami's death, his brother could not get caught in the crossfires. Back to the fight. The weaker meet, the strong eat. Kisame taunted. Kakashi had a deep gash on his arm and minor chakra exhaustion. Jiraiya wouldn't let them retreat as the idiot wanted to question the man about the Akatsuki. Oh how Kakashi was tempted to abandon his morals and run towards his students. The trio stood at a standstill on top of a now abandoned house, when Kisame was engulfed in orange smoke. Kakashi was glad his mask hid his smirk as the shark nin coughed. The problem with shinobi honing their danger senses was that Naruto's pranks didn't seem harmful. In fact Naruto could rig up a poison-filled trap that would make you sterile while whistling a tune. So when Naruto activated a very complex trap in the middle of battle, Kisame never saw it coming. The shark nin set his sword on the ground like he always did and tried to wipe the vile substance off his face while trying to use chakra to move through a sticky substance that adhered his feet to the roof. Yada. What a cool sword. Can I have it? Thanks. Naruto grinned as he popped up next to Kisame and darted away with the sword. Kisame mentally smirked as he was finally free and mostly clean, knowing that his awesome partner of a sword would destroy the Gaki who dare touch Samahata. Only to gape when the sword purred at the blonde and white. Oi, give me back my sword. Kisame jumped towards the blonde even as the Sannin and Kakashi tried to get there first. A fireball from Sasuke blocked his path momentarily, and when it cleared, Itachi was in front of his target, a knocked-out Sasuke and Sakura by his feet. They were not needed in this conversation. Kisame, what are you doing attacking the Jinchuriki before it's time? Itachi asked in a slightly annoyed tone. Kisame gulped when his partner flashed his Sharingan. That brat pranked me and stole my sword. He's gotta die. The shark nin defended. Itachi suppressed a sigh at how complicated Naruto made things. Naruto. Itachi sighed and turned to Naruto. Said boy tilted his head. Give Kisame, my partner and very strong shinobi, back his sword and apologize. But it's mine. I stole it and it's mine. That's the rules. Naruto cried. With an eye twitch, Itachi threw the boy an Ichiraku coupon, left over from the days Naruto would try to prank him in the Anbu failed, of course, and Itachi wanted him out of his hair. Give Kisame the sword and this coupon for 5 bulls is yours. Instantly the sword was back in the slack-jawed Kisame's hands and Itachi was relieved of the coupon. Let's go, Kisame, I tire of these weaklings. Wait, you're not going anywhere. Kakashi suddenly spoke after getting over his stupor. The copy nin always took it as his duty to stop his ex-underling. Jiraiya sent a toad tongue to entrap him, laced with sedatives. Unfortunately for him, Itachi burned the tongue before it reached him as he and Kisame disappeared in a murder of crows. Am I in trouble? Naruto asked as he looked around at the wrecked town below. No, Naruto, you're not. Grab Sakura and let's go. We need to get over the border before Kumo sends an investigation team. Kakashi sighed as he picked up the Uchiha. Jiraiya was ready to speak, but Kakashi silenced him with a glare that reeked of, don't waste our time, we have to hightail it out of here. Jiraiya then gave a goofy grin and proceeded to still talk. I need to talk to Sensei anyways, I'll go with you back to Konoha. Who are you? Naruto squinted his eyes suspiciously. Who am I? Well, let me tell you. I felt crazy chakra that went kaboom. And now I'm here as your doom. Fool, ya fool. Cut the Sannin off before he could begin. Landing nearby was someone nobody wished to meet in battle. Kurabi, Killer Bee, of Kumo, the Hachibi Jinchuriki. This day just got worse, hasn't it? A suddenly conscious Sasuke groaned. Kakashi was inclined to agree. Finally, on the road with Itachi and Kisame. We could have taken the brat there. Think about it, Itachi. I could have diced his legs off as punishment and then we would be done with our assignment. Kisame complained. He refused to look at his sword, who seemed to think the Gaki should become his apprentice and future wielder. Never mind, the kid had to die for their goals. Even if his chakra and spunk made Kisame wish the kid wasn't a Jinchuriki. No, we will capture the Kyuubi Jinchuriki when Leader Sama says it's time, no sooner. It would not do to tip off Konoha, more than I already have, before we are ready. Now come, there is a job for us. You'll like it, it has lots of fighting. Itachi dangled the temptation and his partner took it. Hey, then what are we waiting for? Those Konoha shinobi were weak, I need a real fight. With that, 2 criminals walked into the sunset, ignoring the spike of Biju chakra in the town and various explosions. It was just another Tuesday in their profession. Naruto had the distinct feeling that he should run, especially since he could hear Kurama screaming for him to do just that. If a giant, egoistical fox demanded him turn tail and run, who was Naruto to argue? Kakashi-sensei, he muttered. Kakashi glanced at his apprentice to be and gave a reassuring eye smile so false even Naruto noticed. Yo, don't ignore the Killer Bee, or I'll turn you into diced meat. Fool, ya fool. Sorry, we're just passing through, nothing to be worried about. Kakashi tried to tell the infamous, guardian of Kumo. The man, while appearing goofy, was not stupid. Sure. Then why is Mr. 9 looking mighty fine, wrecking havoc and causing a racket? B countered. At this point Jiraiya butted in. The Akatsuki started it. The Sannin pointed out. This Akatsuki, who are they? We haven't been able to gather who they are besides the cloaks. Let us go if we tell you. Jiraiya bargained. Maybe. Tell me your information before I go all Commander Bad Mashin. B reasoned. Deal. Was Jiraiya's chipper reply. Kakashi resisted a face palm as the next 15 minutes destroyed any hint of respect in Jiraiya beyond his books. So, we told you everything about this Akatsuki. Kakashi ventured once the explanation was over and B was unusually silent. I'll let you fools go, ya fools. But, Kakashi cringed mentally at that last part. As number 8, I have an obligation you see. B said, no hint of a rhyme in his stony features. An obligation? Jiraiya questioned. Yes. Mr. 9 is young but looks strong. I want a Jinchuriki battle. Jinchuriki versus Jinchuriki. Finally, the 8 will overtake the 9 in time. Lightning seemed to go off in the background, something the copy nin took a minute to admire, and Kakashi was about to protest and make a break for it with his still unconscious students and giddy-looking apprentice to be. Sure. I'll beat you. To first blood? He asked mischievously. Both Kakashi and Jiraiya blanched. Naruto. You're no match for him. You can't even summon its chakra. How do you expect to fight an experienced Jinchuriki? You say something, sensei. Naruto snarked back and Kakashi was white as a sheet. His precious student was literally asking to die. Kakashi wanted to say something more but B started rapping again. 1-to-1 we will fight. Count to 3 and I'll be right. I have no idea what that means but sure. Naruto said with great cheer. 1. The two said in unison. Jiraiya had a toad summoned that took Sakura and Sasuke away, still unconscious. 2. Both Jiraiya and Kakashi had jutsu formed. 3. Harem Ika Yuri Jutsu. Was the twin calls. Kakashi saw a heavenly sight before blood loss claimed him. Idly, he noticed Jiraiya and Killer B going down with him like true men. Naruto looked down at his opponent in slight disappointment. Sure, his new variation of the harem jutsu was amazing, but to see 3 very strong shinobi go down was disappointing to say the least. With a sigh, Naruto summoned a bunch of clones to help carry his sensei and weird old man to safety, sparing a glance at the other, Jinchuriki, and giving the unconscious man a fist bump at Kurama's request. Meanwhile, in the seal, Kurama was on the ground of his cage, laughing harder than the time Shukaku was talked into wearing a dress by a human orphan the crazy Tanuki decided to raise. Apparently Shukaku would only let the brat call him mother, as there could only be one father. Thus, the little girl made him a dress, much to the other Baijus's amusement. Come to think of it, Kurama thinks that was the moment Shukaku finally snapped. Putting those thoughts aside, Kurama popped into the linked mindscape he had Naruto create with the fist bump, not that the blonde had any idea it now existed, just long enough to mock his less powerful brother about his failure of a Jinchuriki. Maybe having this one for a host isn't so bad, nah. He associates with those foxes, he has to die. Grr. Curse you Minato and your seal. Kurama mused before finally settling down for another nap. Imaginary Madaras don't impale themselves, after all. Back outside the seal, 1 hour later. The masked blonde stared at his still slightly sensei, completely ignoring the white-haired old man who asked him to use the jutsu again. Nay, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto asked after his teacher was silent following the explanation and gave his sensei a drink of water. Yes, Naruto. Any other laws of nature you wish to break? Kakashi growled. It's not that he wasn't proud of his student for beating his opponent through underhanded tactics, he was, as it was so shinobi-like it hurt Kakashi inside by its genius. It's the fact that it took him out as well. If anyone ever found out about Kakashi's defeat using a henge that wasn't even directed at him, he'd be doomed. So, how to handle this? Normally, When one did something that could potentially ruin Kakashi's hip and cool pervert vibe, a Chidori to the chest was a brilliant method to deal with the problem. But doing that to his future apprentice and village Jinchuriki, not to mention his sensei's kid, was unethical. Ethics meant nothing to a shinobi, but appearances were important and killing his student was a no-go. But the boy still blabbed. A lot. He'd no doubt try to tell his teammates, or worse, the Hokage, and Kakashi's reputation would be shot. So, sensei, what you going to give me not to tell anyone that you fell to my best jutsu? Naruto asked with a shit-eating grin. That made Kakashi pale. The brat knew his sensei's predicament and was using their tactics lessons to capitalize on it for his own betterment. Kakashi Hatake was a proud father in that moment. Don't tell anyone and I'll teach you. Nope. Naruto cut him off. A shiver went down Kakashi's spine. You see, there's a certain book series I've been reading. Sakura-chan mentioned there's a super expensive platinum edition of a certain Ika Ika Tactics series. The same edition I saw at your apartment last week when we were learning more mask jutsu. No, Kakashi screamed. However, Naruto's hidden grin grew manic. Oh yes, I want them. All of them. Otherwise I'm showing this picture to the entire village. Oh, and I have a spare copy hidden, so no stealing. A picture was flashed to the copy nin, of his knocked out form with 4 Yuri Naruto clones around him. The Jonin had no idea when the boy took them, but he was damn proud of his blackmail material. Even if said blackmail material would have every kunoichi after him. Not to mention Iruka. Kakashi learned the hard way that anything involving Naruto made the man cage level, and seeing Kakashi passed out with female versions of his student would no doubt make the Chunin think he was a creep. So, Kakashi did the only thing he could. Nay, Naruto, Jiraiya-sama here is the author of God's Gift to Men. Give me all the copies of that picture, take a vow of silence, and I'll make him give you 2 copies of the silver edition. Kakashi bargained. Deal, was the exuberant agreement. While the boy celebrated, Kakashi held a conversation via hands with Jiraiya, who had been silent in favor of observing his godson. Do it, and don't try to steal him. Kakashi signed in warning. Why? Afraid he'll like me more. Jiraiya bit back. The masked Jonin pushed down that very fear. No, but he's not ready for you. I'm his godfather. Jiraiya's hands moved in a blur, flustered. Who he doesn't know. I'm his sensei. Hey, whatcha doing? Naruto butted in before Kakashi and Jiraiya could come to blows. Nothing. Introduce yourself to Jiraiya-sama. Before Naruto could speak, Jiraiya launched into a boisterous rendition of his normal introduction. By the end of it, the blonde genin was less than impressed. Pervy sage, was his immediate response. Kakashi grinned and I smiled at the slack-jawed white-haired literary genius. Naruto, no need to be so technical. Well, Jiraiya-sama, we must be going. Konoha needs us back and all, just send those books through the mail. Ya nay. Kakashi used a shunshin to take them away before the apprentice-stealing bastard got over his shock. In Fire Country. Later, Naruto looked at his sensei in confusion while they hopped swiftly through the trees. Kakashi-sensei? He asked. Kakashi didn't glance up from his orange book. You say something. Why do I feel like we forgot something? That stopped the copy nin. Shit. Hokage-sama's going to kill me. Why? We left Sasuke and Sakura. We're screwed. Naruto said eloquently. His sensei's white complexion was the only verification he needed. 1 week later, Konoha. After turning around and running into an extremely irate Sakura and Sasuke escorted by a terrified Jiraiya, the man flinched every time Sakura smiled, worrying Kakashi to no end. Team 7 plus pervert made it back to the village in one piece. It was a time of great tribulations, where every moment Kakashi had to defend his mini-me project. No way was he letting Naruto become anything less than a hip and cool shinobi. If he had to see Jiraiya attempt to coax Naruto into signing the Toad contract one more time, the copy nin would destroy the scroll. Now Kakashi was free, Well, as free as one could be when under the Hokage's gleeful gaze when Naruto reported in their private report read, "No Anbu or the other genin," about his new jutsu. To Kakashi's astonishment, his leader gave the boy a ramen coupon, had him add it to the forbidden scroll, and sent him on his way with the promise not to tell anyone else. After that, Jiraiya finished his report and left abruptly for research. At that point it was just the Hokage and Kakashi, who would never admit the man made him want to pee his pants. Now that we have that whole mess cleaned up, mind telling me why you tried to bribe my surrogate grandson to lie in his mission report? The amused yet steely gaze somehow was more terrifying than the Kyuubi. As I thought. Now, a suitable punishment, besides the one of being added to the long list of Naruto's victims. Kakashi felt, in that moment, that maybe a nuke nin life would be worth it. After all, what his leader said he would be doing for the next week was a fate worse than death. That's when it hit him. Naruto planned it all. He was sure of it. The boy got his payment already for the pictures and then sold him out to the Hokage for ramen. If Kakashi wasn't the victim, he would be so proud. With Naruto at the ramen stand. Meanwhile, Naruto Uzumaki had the distinct feeling that he was being praised for something he didn't do. And his, "I forgot something important," senses were tingling. It took another 5 bowls of ramen before he finally remembered. I wasn't supposed to mention my new jutsu in the report, was I? Oh well, Hokage Gigi won't punish Kakashi-sensei, he's too nice. With that, the clueless genin resumed his gorge. Kakashi Hatake, killer of hundreds and dashingly handsome hero to his village, finally knew the true meaning of pain. No, it wasn't seeing his father commit seppuku to redeem the Hatake honor. No, it wasn't seeing his teammates die one by one, leaving his only friend a glorified stalker just wanting to beat him. And no, it wasn't even the various grave wounds he incurred across his illustrious career. It was teaching flower arranging to aspiring kunoichi ages 5 to 10. Kakashi-sensei, do you like my arrangement? I made it for you. Momo, an adorable child, asked with a sweet smile. The Jonin was about to return an eye smile as a thank you, and send her off to make more like the other brats. Until he looked at the arrangement, and what the flowers meant. Anger, resentment, promises to hire someone, take care of, the one gifted within 7 days. In other words, a hit was put on him. But it's fine, right? Not like 6-year-olds could do much damage. That's what he assured himself with, even as his mind flashed to his own 6-year-old self who completed 15 assassinations. His most famous at the time was stabbing a Kumo Jonin in the eye while the man slept, bypassing security. Yeah, he's definitely upping his security seals, and surviving off prepackaged food. Worst part, little Momo-chan bounded off so happy, he couldn't bring himself to fault her. Perhaps she was being manipulated. Iruka certainly had enough motive to have him taken out. Sensei, how do I get the lightning to go all over again? A high-pitched voice whined as chakra burst behind him. Ah yes, his adorable apprentice learning how to use child Kakashi's favorite jutsu, electromagnetic murder. A great way to stun or kill your opponent, but requires the ability to evenly disperse lightning chakra. Something his student was struggling with. It was day 2 of his hell, and 5 more days of watching these brats would kill him. He had barely a week before the exams, and somehow he was supposed to get Naruto ready for the test. And his other students, but they were content with clones and Pakun. He was about to answer when his shinobi senses kicked in and Kakashi jumped into the nearest tree, avoiding the onslaught of tiny hands holding a variety of arrangements. The monsters didn't know tree walking, so he was safe. But them staring at his masked face made Kakashi shiver. Why must every kunoichi be so terrifying? Sensei, this is for you. Mine's the best. No, mine is back off, bubble face. Bubble face. Well, at least my legs aren't thunder thighs. Why you? It appeared the 4th war was about to start around his tree, and Kakashi had to stop it. Curse the Hokage and his devious mind for punishment. Naruto, Take the brats, I mean students, to the south field for, arranging a love bouquet. Yes, they could go bother his apprentice to be and two other students, and let the Jonin get quality reading time. Naruto looked up from his exercise confusedly. What? But Hokage Gigi said you're supposed to teach them, not me. Do it and we'll learn tracking techniques with Pakumi. And instantly 20 clones were made to cart off the she-devils in training, despite their protests. Ah, peace and quiet. Maybe I can survive like this for the next 5 days. Oh, how his words came back to bite him. South Field, with Naruto. When Naruto and clones dropped the children on the grass, protests started to rise. The blonde looked everywhere for his teammates, but they seemed to have disappeared, leaving him alone with children. And of course Sasuke had burned all the grass, not to mention flowers in the field. Meaning the lesson was pointless. If only he could just show the girls some jutsu or play ninja tag like with the Konohamaru Corps. Maybe he could get these kids to call him boss, too. So flower arranging sounds stupid, he proclaimed boldly. Instantly protests arose. No, you're stupid. Yeah, why does Konohamaru-kun think you're so amazing? You can't even do that lightning jutsu, and my mommy says that jutsu is easy. Moegi-chan is stupid thinking you're so great. And where's the flowers? Hey, shut up. Naruto shouted, losing his cool. Silence filled the air. That's better. Instead of flower stuff, we're doing. Here Naruto trailed off, noticing that none of them had their kunai pouches and the only jutsu they knew was the clone jutsu, something he wasn't going to help with. Naruto let his eyes wander, grinning when his eyes met the tree line. Tree climbing. But we know how to climb trees. A girl Naruto remembered as Momo hesitantly stated. But can you do this? And up Naruto ran the nearest tree without hands. 10 pairs of eyes widened with stars as he jumped back down. Whoa, we could reach Kakashi-sensei this way. The only Akamichi girl shouted. Yeah, and then confess our love. A civilian Kunoichi cooed. No, he's mine. The Yamanake retorted. A 10-way glaring contest that was freaking Naruto out ensued before they turned on him. Teach USSS. They monotoned. Now the genin was regretting his decision. And then we lift our paws in the air and give blessings to our great Kurama-sama. Kuro chanted. The fox summon sat in the middle of a circle, the kunoichi around him. O Kurama-sama, they chanted back. Yes, don't be afraid to raise your voices. Kuro encouraged. O Kurama-sama. The chants continued. Naruto sat on a nearby branch, attempting to read, but the chanting gave him the heebie-jeebies. He could feel his biju shooting out wishes for death upon the fox, but at the same time the blonde couldn't help it, he found it adorable. After watching every girl get to the top of the tree within an hour, Naruto learned one important fact: never underestimate a kunoichi with a crush. The whole time they were fantasizing about his sensei saying they were the best, and accepting their flowers. It reminded him of his dear Sakura-chan with Sasuke, only more innocent and no desires for marriage. But soon they all had it down, making the Jinchuriki equal parts nervous and jealous. They still had 2 hours before the class ended, and Naruto wasn't about to test his sensei's patience by bringing the girls back. So, he called for backup. But tiny girls with puppies resulted in the traitors abandoning him in the first 5 minutes. Thankfully, Kuro was more than happy to help. If only the fox wasn't teaching them to worship his biju, not that they know it. The summoned creature kept what, Kurama-sama, was a secret. Repeat after me. Kurama-sama, we thank you for your bountiful favor. Kurama-sama, we thank you for your bountiful favor. The girls shouted back. O Kurama-sama, our lives are thanks to you. O Kurama-sama, our lives are thanks to you. When our hearts feel your claws impaling us, when your teeth bite our heads off, we know it's because we have truly earned your blessings. Now that was just disturbing in Naruto's mind, but the kids still went on. When our hearts feel your claws impaling us, when your teeth bite our heads off, we know it's because we have truly earned your blessings. All the genin could do was pray to Kurama-sama, since he seems to be a godlike figure, that none of the girls tell their parents about this. Soon, it was time to go, and Naruto used his brain for the first time to ensure he wasn't subjected to interrogation for attempting a coup. Nothing was supposed to be above the Hokage, not even Kurama-sama, after all. Oi, the Kurama fan club is super top secret. Don't tell anyone or you'll panic filled him, but Kuro saved him. You'll lose Kurama-sama's favor. The ambassador to our idol has spoken, vows of silence must be taken. Thank all that is Ika in this world that his summon seemed to think he was to be listened to and save the day. Okay Naruto-sama, they chorused. That's boss to you. He cackled and gave an eye smile. Back with Kakashi. Kakashi sighed contently. The sun was starting to set, his clones popped after his two non-apprentice genin learned their assigned parts, and no academy brats had bothered him. Hey sensei. A chirp behind jolted the jonin from his lazy reading. Gulping, Kakashi turned his head to see Momo smiling at him, in the tree. With all 10 girls at various levels, some hanging upside down by chakra. Naruto was giving him a sheepish eye smile with a snickering Kuro-tem on his shoulder. Nah, Ru, too, he growled. His soon-to-be-dead future apprentice gulped. Ma, you say something sensei. Girls, you may leave. Me and my adorable student need to have a talk about what is appropriate babysitting behavior. And instantly Kakashi had used Shunshin on the pair, stopping when they reached training ground 7. Shrieks filled the evening air. Meanwhile, on the road to Konoha, a certain red-headed psycho could be seen walking towards his target, bloodlust making his team queasy. All but the boy wished to turn back, but they couldn't. Suna had to pass the exams, to destroy the leaf once and for all. Mother, soon you will have blood. Gaara rasped. And finally, with Danzo. Please don't make me do this again, Danzo-kun, you know how I hate punishing you. Uruka chided in the dark of T&I. You'll never make me talk, boy. You hear me Sarutobi, I will fix Konoha from the shadows, I did what I had to. The roots will cleanse the tree. A one-armed Danzo was so done with this shit. Stuck in here for days, all because Hiruzen couldn't handle him doing the best thing for Konoha. Hey, guess I have no choice. You brought this on yourself, if you'd just tell us how to deactivate the curse seals we could talk. Help us help you. Never. Danzo sneered. He resisted an eye roll as the upstart Ibiki Fu was clearly better at interrogation came in once more. He just had to bide his time until the roots not captured freed him. Then, he could make Konoha in his image.